Okay, I've just got this new Turnigy Reaktor 300-watt charger, and I'm going to demonstrate charging this Turnigy Nanotech A-Spec 6.2 amp hour 2-cell LiPo battery. These are rated for 8C charge rate, which would be about 50 amps, but obviously this particular unit can't go that high. This charger is £50 or thereabouts on Hobby King, so I think it probably represents a good price to performance ratio point. I'm going to charge the battery at 20 amps, which is the highest that this unit can do. It's a LiPo battery, and I want 20 amps. Notice how it automatically detects the correct setting for the voltage for the battery. Automatically detects what kind of battery you've plugged in when it's connected correctly. It also automatically beeps if you connect it backwards as well. Press and hold start to charge. The fan's not running at the moment, but it will start running very soon. There we go. If you press the right arrow, you can see the cell voltages. This battery was almost completely flat when I started. Now if you press the left arrow, it cycles through a load of stats and settings. So in here you can see that the power supply I'm using is quite struggling to actually keep up with the load that's being placed on it, but it's not blown up yet. So if you go into this screen, you press the start button, you go back to the charge rate or status screen. Incidentally, I did the maths from the amount of power that was going in and the voltage as measured by the unit, and it seems to pull doing 20 amps on a 2S LiPo around just under 200 watts from the power supply. I also found that if you use an inadequate power supply, the charger automatically throttles back the charge rate to avoid the power supply from cutting out. And also, if your balance lead is too small, too thin wire, then it will also overheat. My first one actually melted, so I had to get a better quality one in order to charge at this rate. But if the balance lead overheats, then the charger also reduces the charge speed for that as well. See, we're 4 minutes in, we've already put 1300 milliamperes in. .8 approximately per cell. Fan speed seems to have stabilised now. Internal temperature is 37°C. Charger is warm to touch, but not hot. Battery is completely stone cold. Charge lead is warm, as is the input cable. Cables from my power supply are cold. Incidentally, one thing that I noticed people seem to get really confused about is this voltage here is not the total voltage of the battery pack. It's actually the voltage that the charger is putting into the battery pack, which, if you're using really long cables, can actually be more than 8.4 volts, and it seems to be quite safe. So I've put 2.5 amp hours into the battery now at 7-minute mark. Battery is still cold to touch. Charger output cable is definitely quite warm to touch. I'm using the balance lead that came with the battery and the crocodile clip cable that came with the charger for this test. Okay, so 9 minutes 25 seconds to 50% capacity. Well, to put 50% capacity into the battery anyway. It wasn't completely discharged when I started, it was down to 3.3 volts per cell. Charger's not heating up anymore. I think that voltage has dropped even further. Just in case anyone's interested, I'm using a very cheap cannibalized power supply, PC power supply, to power the charger here. I don't think I'd recommend it. I think I'm going to get something better. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head where the 80% mark is for this particular battery. You can see the output voltage is now above 8.4 volts, but that's safe because the individual cell voltage is still below 4.2, and I'll be making sure that it remains there as the charge progresses. But we should be near the point where we move from the constant current section of the charge to the constant voltage section very shortly. The battery is still cold to touch. The power output wires are warm. Balance lead connection is cold. Power input wire is also warm, just barely lukewarm to touch. Looks like we should be right about to enter the constant voltage section of the charge. As you can see, now down to 18.6 amps. So that's 15 minutes from almost completely flat to approximately 80% full. Looks like the second cell is about to enter the constant voltage section of its charge. Okay, we'll put 5.4 amp hours into the battery now. We're still charging at above 10 amps, although it is now plummeting very rapidly. Fan's ramping down now, no doubt in response to the reduced temperature. Approximately 90% charged now. The fan has completely gone off now. Unit is still just barely warm, fairly warm to touch, it's not hot at all. Interestingly, that second cell still isn't quite up to 4.2 volts, but near enough, makes no difference. Now putting 5 amps into the battery, which is the most my old charger could manage. I'm going to terminate this video at the 20-minute mark because it will probably take forever to get the last 10% into the battery. I think it normally takes about as long to do the last 10% as it does to do the first 90%, so my hands are getting tired as well, so hopefully that gives you a decent overview of the process anyway. After the charge, the battery is still stone cold to touch, and the output wires are now cooled down and are now cold to touch, as are the input wires. There we go. I'm going to terminate the charge and this recording at that point. But hopefully that gives you an idea of just how quickly you can charge one of these batteries. If you're in a pinch, it's probably much better to just charge it at no more than say 10 amps. But as a nice example of what you can do if you need to, hopefully you found that useful.